Okay, guys, your blog on your website cannot be just about public relations.
Right.
That pat yourself on the back mentality gets old and people see through it right away. But if you give me information that I can use that's helpful, I will remember that and I will come back and look for more, or I will give you a call when I need to do something. Welcome to the Archispeak podcast. I'm Evan Troxel. Each episode, Neil Pan, Cormac Phelan, and I have a casual conversation about all things architecture, and we invite you to listen in as we talk about everything in the profession, both the good and the bad. Maybe you're considering a career in architecture, you're still in school, or you've been around the blocks of Corbusier's City of Tomorrow more times than you'd like to admit. Join us in the studio as we stand around the water cooler and talk about why we love our chosen profession. It's time for some Archispeak.
I died in South Africa, all the outline, my body in Tiffany's blue. When I died, I drove riding and swam with the dolphins and Lisa Frank. And you.
Welcome to episode 42 of the Archispeak podcast. I'm Neil Pan.
I'm Evan Troxel.
And I'm Cormac Phelan.
And first up, we'll get to friends of the show.
This week we had a donation from John Harvey of $10, and John is in Charlotte, North Carolina. And thank you, John, very much for becoming a friend of the show. And if you want to become a friend of the show, you can also donate to the Archispeak podcast, and all of the donations go toward all of the operating costs for the podcast, all the stuff that it takes to get it out to you guys every couple weeks. So you can do that at archispeakpodcast.com/donate, and anything over $5, we'll read your name on the show, and our sincere thanks to all of our friends. So that's it for this week for new friends of the show.
And Evan, we have an update on our ALS challenge, right?
Yeah, so a couple weeks ago, Mark LePage at Entrepreneur Architect called the Archispeak podcast out, along with a couple of other of our Twitter friends. And so the three of us did all of our own videos, and we published those to our Facebook page, which you can go check out. We'll have a link to that in our show notes for the episode. And what we did last week, I guess, Cormac, this was your brainchild. You challenged everybody. Why don't you tell everybody what the challenge was?
So the challenge is that the people that we called out, and also anybody who wanted to make a donation to the Friends of the Show, we would take all of those typical donations that would go for overhead and use those as part of our donation, along with our donation, and send all of that off to the ALS. And we did pretty well.
Yeah, so thanks to a couple people here, we're going to be donating $700 toward ALS. And we had a donation from Mark LePage, who said, thanks for playing along and for our generous contribution to ALS. Well done, guys. So thank you, Mark. We really appreciate it. And we also really appreciate you calling us out, because I know that this has just been something that's been great to participate in.
Absolutely.
And we've had a couple of really good conversations on Twitter with people who have been affected, within their family by ALS. And so I really do feel like this has been a great cause, and it has been something that obviously has been catching on like wildfire around the internet. And then the other contribution, we got a hefty contribution from Jonathan Hines, and he said it was actually for comic books and ALS research only. And we're obviously going to donate it all to ALS, because this was an amazing donation. Jonathan Hines from Calgary up in Alberta, Canada. And so thank you very much, Jonathan and Mark, for your very huge donations. It's a big deal, and so we really appreciate it. And then the Archispeak podcast is, of course, donating on top of that. So $700 towards ALS. Good job, everybody. We appreciate you going through Archispeak to do that. And so obviously we will write your names in there as well. And I think that it's going to really help out. So thanks.
Yeah, thank you to everybody who donated and for really raising awareness. It's really important. And before we get to our topic tonight, actually, one more announcement, a little business here. I actually will be attending the Missing 32% Project, Equity by Design, which takes place on October 18th, so just next month in San Francisco. So if you are near the Bay Area or not and plan on attending, this is going to be a really great event, and we'll talk more about it as it gets a little bit closer. But we are indeed a sponsor for this event and are looking forward to meeting any of our listeners there. And we will be doing some interviews and a show about the actual Equity by Design Symposium after it airs or after it actually happens. So we're really looking forward to being a part of this. It's an important project, and like I said, we'll get a little more into details as it gets a little bit closer. But if anybody's interested in signing up to attend the event, there'll be a link in our show notes for that. And do so soon, because I think they're about 2/3 to 3/4 of the way full. So if you're hearing this now, go check out the website at themissing32%.com and check for the Equity by Design 10/18/14 link at the top of the page and go sign up now. So
we'll have a link to that in the show notes as well, but it's themissing32% all spelled out .com.
Yes.
Except for the 32 part. themissing32%.com. And some friends of the show there. We've got Rosa Sheng, who's heading that whole thing up, and it's going to be a really cool thing. And I'm really looking forward to having the conversations that are upcoming on this. So again, if any of our listeners are going to be going, it's not strictly a female event. Obviously, I mean they're letting Neil in, so definitely if you're interested, if you're interested in the whole Equity by Design symposium, go check out the website and definitely go there and say hi to Neil, and we'd love to hear your thoughts on it as well.
So tonight, we were going to start off our conversation tonight talking at least one topic here I wanted to touch on a little bit is architects and their websites. And so I kind of wanted to ask you guys a little bit about, what should an architect's website be? And that could probably range from a number of different things depending on the type of firm. I'm sure the firms you work for, being larger firms, doing schoolwork and other types of larger projects, is probably going to be the requirements for that sort of website might be a little bit different than, say, the website for a sole practitioner or a smaller office, maybe focusing on single family residential type projects. So anyway, I just, what sort of things should be on an architect's website? I mean, the first thing I'm going to throw out there is, first off, you should have one. Architects have generally been kind of slow to adopt new technologies like this and being on the web. And I know a number of architects that are sole practitioners near me that don't have websites. And they're doing fine without them, I assume. But I still think that having a presence, I know I get a number of referrals and people coming to me from my own website, which I won't say is probably the best shining example of what an architect's website should be, but I'm working on it. But I mean, the other thing I was going to throw out there is not only do you should have one, but don't use Flash. A lot of firms I know, it's probably less and less, but I still come across some architects. I go to their websites and it's like Flash, and I'm on my iPad or my iPhone, and it just doesn't work. It's like, all right,
and there's no alternative.
And there's no
that's
alternative.
The biggest problem.
If there's no alternative, and a lot of people I know a firm that for a while that they didn't have an alternative because they paid to have the website done, and it was a lot of money to pay somebody to update it, and so it was all Flash based.
Yeah.
And there was no alternative, and it's like, oh, man, you fail right off the bat. Somebody wants to see your work or find out about you, and they can't.
Well, it was because early on, the fancy, pretty moving images and everything. It was easier, quicker, and whatever to do in Flash.
It was sexy, is what it was.
Oh yeah,
right?
It was pure eye candy.
Well, that's a question I wanted to ask you guys. Should an architect's website be eye candy, or if so, how much of that should be eye candy? Who is the website for? Is the question I really wanted to ask.
That was what I was gonna, because in our office we've been trying to revamp our webpage, and we just did a recent update. And
how many architects does it take to redesign a website?
There's a joke in there
let's
somewhere.
Not even, let's not even go there. But one of the things that
painful.
we had a conversation about is because there's the one train of thought that the website is the modern day business card. Just go to my website and you'll find out anything that you need to know about me. You'll find out examples of my work and things like that. And that's one side of it. It should be a strong side because, you are using this as a marketing tool. But the question we had in the office was, or the question that I raised was, who is this website
Who's the audience?
for?
Yeah.
Who is the audience? Is it, and they were like, well, we've got our clients, and, if our clients want to learn a little bit more about us, I'm like, well, but that's not, that really, to me, and let me throw out my opinion here, is that it's not for the clients we have, it's for the people we want. Our clients already know who we are. I mean, they hire us because of who we are and the work that we give them and, the service that we give them. But so they're going to come back to us. They already know us. If they want to know more, or if they want to say, hey, go check out, these architects because they've got some pretty pictures of a project that, our project, then sure, they can, our clients, our existing clients can use those. But this is a calling card this is an introductory card, right? This is our
this
introduction.
Probably is, the first impression. Right?
And I think there was some chatter on Twitter, and I chimed in ever so quickly, and they were talking about websites and that somebody had gotten, and I can't remember, it was somebody we talk to all the time, and for some reason I'm just drawing a blank, but they were like, well, I just got a project because my website didn't suck.
Yeah.
And that was, do you guys remember that?
No,
But-
I've heard
anyway,
similar things though.
But it was, so you lay out all of these architects, and you're like, okay, these are the guys in the area. Here's Neil Pan. Here's Evan Troxel. Here's Cormac Phelan. I'm going to go with Neil Pan because his website didn't suck.
It didn't suck.
Evans was too, wordy, likes to talk a lot. Cormac scared me.
Cormac's had zombies on it.
Zombies,
Exactly.
pictures of zombies.
I didn't find anything architecturally related,
Right.
but if it's any indication about what's going on in his head, I don't want anything to do with it.
Well, I think that there definitely are firms that don't need websites because they probably get all their work word of mouth.
Well, but
And I'm just
really?
saying you don't need it. It's never gonna. I don't think it's gonna hurt you unless, of course, it's done by your cousin's 14-year-old nephew or something. Where it wasn't well done. It wasn't done by an expert. But it not everybody has to have one. I know people with small firms who they just don't, or maybe all they have is a Facebook page, and that works for them, or a house page. Right, something like that, where you can use somebody else's platform to publish your stuff onto. I don't necessarily fall under that category, but I just know that works for some people. But I think there's also other categories we don't want to dismiss here, which would be people looking for work should have websites. People looking to work at firms in architecture should have websites. I was looking at some job description the other day, and it was basically mandated. You have to have an online portfolio. for them to even
Interesting.
consider you.
That's
Interesting.
interesting.
And
You know,
the other people, getting back to your audience thing, maybe we steer back to that, is
Yeah.
it's not even just clients. It is potential hires who should be your audience as well.
Exactly, because we've had several people that we've been interviewing recently, and a lot of them bring up work that they've seen on our website, and want to talk about that because it kind of gives them
It gives some kind of a flavor of what you're about, right? It should.
of what you're getting into.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
Does this particular firms, do they mesh with what I believe in, or because if you're like some kid coming out of school, you're sustainably minded, you want to pursue green architecture, or you want to pursue educational architecture and stuff, and that's a good way to be able to find out and gauge if a firm that you're going to interview with or want to send a resume off to meshes with your ideas.
Right. So if we've established that the audience for your website needs to be your potential or future clients, and
you have to determine what your audience is, you
yeah,
build it for that audience.
okay,
I
but
think.
I'm
No,
just
we
saying
weren't-
through
we
our
weren't really-
conversation, we've identified a couple of potential audience members.
Sure.
Right,
That
because
for
we
your
weren't really
for
trying
your
to
site.
define.
No, I realize that, but I mean, I think we've hit on probably the two most popular people for the majority of
Correct.
architects out there. Those are going to be your audience, and first off, that audience is likely not other architects, although it could be, I suppose. But
Well,
But, I
you
mean,
do that too.
I think most people make that mistake,
I agree,
and usually
absolutely.
it becomes a portfolio for other architects to look at.
Oh, it purely is. It's our way of creating our own architectural record.
Yeah.
Right,
Look at me,
right.
look at all my pretty pictures and everything, and ooh, look, I'm prettier than you are, kind of thing. And that's what that's what we were discussing in the office. Is ooh, we need to get pictures of this, and this. And I'm like, see, and this is where we're gonna go wrong on our website. We're trying to market. Everything that you're talking about is marketing towards architects and not marketing towards potential clients.
Yeah, I think
Right.
if you want to attract clients, you've got to tell them what you believe, you got to tell them what you do, and you've got to tell stories of other successful projects that clients who got involved in, that they could see themselves becoming part of one of those stories. And I don't want to
Exactly.
say you are a storyteller, but you are an architect who involves your clients into the participation of the project and the
Right.
process. And people can identify with wanting to go through that with you. And if you can figure out ways to tell those types of stories of successes, people will gravitate toward that because they're going to want to be part of a success, right? You are changing their entity, their endeavor, and you can make it better through the process. So who wouldn't want to be a part of that?
Right.
Well, so let me ask you just quickly. So if you want to, what about recommendations? Do you think that's a good idea to, if you had a successful project and just, putting a quote or something like that by a client?
Why not?
On there?
Why not?
Yeah, testimonials I think can be very
yeah.
powerful. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
But don't
it's-
even just type it out. Like record them. Do it in video. Do something where you can actually see them say it, so that it's not just something that you edited to make it sound better, right? But it's actually from their own lips, right? You get to see that client talking about the project. Everybody carries around a video camera in their pocket nowadays. You could totally do this very easily.
So what other, if this is your audience, like I said, those two different, potential clients, potential people that want to work for you, if those are your main people you're trying to speak to with your website, other than maybe some testimonials, which we just mentioned, but what other sorts of things should you have on that website? I mean, does a page telling them about what your what maybe services you provide?
Well, I know that there's been some talk lately about, and I know Enoch Sears over at Business of Architecture does a lot of coaching on what a successful architect's website is, and his stuff is very in depth, but it's really about marketing and getting the clients you want. I've actually seen people recently talking about just posting their pricing right on their website.
Mm.
So if you're a small residential firm and you know that there's competition in your area, they'll set the expectation right up front.
Right.
I thought that was interesting. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I don't know. To me, that's a slippery slope. I mean, because it just...
The interesting thing about the web is it is very easy to edit, right? And so you can actually experiment. You can try things. It's nothing's permanent there, right?
Yeah, but you're throwing out your pricing and stuff, and if you're doing that solely because you know that there's other architects out there that are your direct competition, and they may or may not be doing that,
Well, how many people call up an architect expecting a drafting service, and then when you tell them your real price because you're actually offering real services that are requiring a lot of thought and effort, and you tell them your price and they freak out, right? You just wasted all that time, right? Because they weren't going to hire you to begin with.
Happens to me all the time.
And I was going to say, it's a little bit different. It's different, like say, let's just take the three of us.
Yeah, absolutely.
You and I, Evan, work in larger firms that do, civic, public schools, things like that, which, we have, pretty much standard set rates that almost everybody else that are going to be doing that same project will have set, because it probably, in our case, I know it comes, from kind of like the standard fee rates from the AIA. So, we're pretty much all on a level playing field, But if we were a direct competition with Neil, doing more residential work and stuff, even though there's kind of like a baseline that could be set, Neil publishes, I will charge X amount of dollars per hour. I'm going to click on Neil's website and I'm going to say, really, is that what he does? So when that client calls me, well, I just saw Neil is going to do this for $15 an hour. Like, well, I'll do it for $14.
Right.
Oh, absolutely.
So that's why I was just like, it's kind of a, it's almost odd to do that because you're almost, because obviously we all know that fees are negotiable and we don't want to give away.
But they find out your fees anyway. They find out your rates anyway. And they still shop them around.
Well, yeah.
If it is purely a price competition, then race to the bottom all you want, right?
I was going to say because Enoch and Mark right now are like rolling around like, you guys, you need to bring it in. You don't talk about giving it away. But it doesn't it almost seem like if you're going to publish your fees online, that what you're essentially doing is opening it up for the next guy to undercut you and then the next guy to undercut him?
I don't know, man, because it really depends. Again, I think then this links directly into those testimonials for the people that you do work with. My wife has a cleaning business and the Yelp reviews are 5 stars and people rave about, and she is the most expensive cleaning business in the city. And it's because they do the best job. And so when you start talking about value instead of price, right?
Correct.
That is where the difference happens.
Well, see, that's why I think that rather than putting prices, you put the value of these testimonials of what you can bring to the project, so that when they're looking at, well, why should we hire Evan or why should we hire Neil? It's not based off of price; it's based off of quality of service.
Okay, so this plays into what I was going to add to the conversation with what you put on your website. Mm-hmm. Is I like to use the chef analogy where you watch the Food Network, or even when the Food Network was just getting started, or there's always been Julie Child and all these different chefs they give away their recipes for free, right? On these television shows, you watch them make it. You get to see exactly, the timing of how this works. And I still haven't figured out how they put the one in the oven and the other one comes right out. But the chef analogy works really well. They're not afraid to give these away because they know that someone's still going to buy their cookbook, right? Or they're going to buy their pots and pans because they want to be, you want to be like them. You want to be as good as they are in the kitchen, right? And so you start to think like mentally, how can I be like them? Well, maybe if I buy this or if I buy their cookbook. They're not relying on hoarding all that information. And if you look at, Merica McKeel, she's been on the podcast before, and she has a great service that she offers on her website, which is these blog entries that actually help people and help expose ideas to potential clients. I mean, the audience for her is potential or existing clients. Hey, have you thought about, the 5 coolest outdoor fireplaces, right? Here they are. These are the ones that I think are the 5 coolest outdoor fireplaces. And so automatically someone says, hey, I really like those 5 outdoor fireplaces. In fact, I like this one the best. I remember that I got that from Merica.
Right.
And so she's offering information. She's offering things out that is useful for people. And it doesn't have to do with architecture all the time. It has to do with things that link up with architecture. It has to do with lifestyle and the living environment, whether it's indoor, outdoor, whatever it is. But, okay, guys, your blog on your website cannot be just about public relations.
Right.
That pat yourself on the back mentality gets old and people see through it right away. It doesn't affect me personally. But if you give me information that I can use that's helpful, I will remember that and I will come back and look for more, or I will give you a call when I need to do something. I think it's super important. And a lot of architects, first of all, you have to find the time to blog. It is not easy. It takes a lot of work. You have to put all that stuff together. You have to format it. You have to write it. You got to get images that support it. And it's work. But that work is going to pay off. That first client that signs up is going to take care of 5 or 10 blog posts, all the time that you spent doing that.
So let me take this. I want to zoom back out to the larger level here just for a moment and talk about certain things about your website. So let me give you an example. One of the things that really annoys me when I go to most any websites, right? But the ones that will automatically kind of reformat as you go, or you click a link and something pops, maybe a popover or something that kind of just displays in front of the page. And then, as you're scrolling, the menu at the top keeps moving down and it's covering things and it's moving around. It's just, websites like that just get very annoying to me.
Absolutely. I think that the more complicated or nagging that a website is, it's just, I move along. I'll go somewhere else. I can find this information. So, there's a lot of really clever, complicated architectural websites out there. The way that they display their work with cryptic codes that they've codified every project into some weird, like they've come up with their own Dewey Decimal System on their website. And it's like, how is any kind of person supposed to be able to decipher this and figure this out? And then, like what you're talking about, you've got pop-ups, sign up for my newsletter, this, that, the like you're saying, all this, the thing goes black and then there's this graphic over the top and you have to dismiss it and it just nags you.
Right.
And it's like any red tape that you put in the way of someone who's looking for information, you've lost them immediately.
Yep. Yeah, that's kind of where I was going with. And I'm going to add to that by saying that sometimes these pop-ups, they get in the way of when you're using it on a mobile device, and so... And
then you can't close it, right? Because you can't find the little X.
We kind of had a little bit of issue like that with our own website recently, trying to have people making comments, and I guess there was a kind of a popover sort of thing that happened even on our own website, and some people were having difficulties with that. So we apologize for that, and we're working on trying to solve that. But I mean, that's very frustrating to me if I'm going to a site and I've got these popovers. And for instance, I mean, like one of the things that's like from day one, and I'm going to use the iPhone as an example here because it kind of set the standard for, how these smartphones should work. But one of the very early design features that Apple did was that if you're on a web page and you kind of double tap on a block of text, the iPhone will zoom into that text on the web page. And you double tap again, it zooms back out, and it's a really nice feature. It's something that I think I haven't used an Android device myself, but I have a feeling that they likely work the same way. So I mean, if they don't, some I'm sure our listeners will tell us. But
email Neil.
Yeah, email me. Yeah, no, at the Archispeak website, so that's fine. But anyway, one of the things. I was going through a site today and it was almost frustrating that it was like, okay, well, here's some text. Now it's kind of small on my iPhone or even on an iPad, it would be kind of small to read. So I'm going to double tap on that. That's just my natural, because I've been using this iPhone for how long has it been out now? 7 years. This is what I expect a website to do. And I do it and it doesn't work. Yeah. And it's like, what's going on? Okay, well, I'm going to try and pinch and zoom, right? I mean, that works on all phones, right? I mean, you pinch to zoom into the website so you can see it closely. And when I did that, it's like this popover like zoomed off to the side because it was set to like automatically kind of center itself on the page. But because I zoomed in manually, it zoomed off to the side and I couldn't even actually see the text. I mean, all I could see was this little tiny piece of the website because everything reformatted because it thought it was doing what it was supposed to. Anyway, my point is that, experiment with your website on multiple types of devices, sideways, holding the iPhone up or your Android device or whatever you're using, and make it work with these kind of standard conventions that we've kind of grown up to use when using mobile devices.
Yeah, and there's a lot of platforms out there that do a lot of that automatically. I mean, that sounds kind of daunting, right? To have to do all that testing. I mean, either hire a professional to do it or use kind of a proven system.
Right. Exactly. And if you do discover that your site's kind of a little wonky doing stuff like that, you need to fix it. Or you need to find a different platform to get it on because those things get very frustrating. And like Evan said just a minute ago, you're done. You're lost. I give up. It's like, well, like Cormac said, that guy's website sucks. I'm not even going to call him because I can't even zoom in to actually see what the hell his phone number is.
Well, and just don't hide the information. Just present it. Make it very clear and simple and straightforward. And people would really respect that. It doesn't have to be 6-point font, and because that was the one that looked the best. And people overthink this stuff. If you want to spend your time doing architecture, then keep it simple.
Well, so here's another question then: professionally done website, or we just have some new interns? Let's make them do it.
Well, I think that kind of probably depends on your budget, right? I mean, if you can afford to pay some interns to do that, I mean, the talent, some people, I mean, first off, they're doing this already likely in school. So they've created, like Evan said, they've created their own website, because they're looking for a job for themselves. So, I mean, if you can afford to do that, do it in-house. Because one of the nice things about doing it in-house, or maybe doing it that way, if you've got the talent to do that, is that when you need to make changes, they can be done. I mean, one of the frustrating things that I know a firm that we used an outside service, they did it. It was like anytime they wanted to add a picture to the website, they had to call this person. This person had, or this person or company, they had to do it. There was a fee involved, and it was like, look, I just want to add a new picture here, and it got to a point where it was so expensive or expensive enough that we're not even going to do it. Just leave it alone. It's fine the
And
way
then
it
it
is.
just stagnates.
And then it just stagnates. Exactly. So
Yeah,
I would say
I-
got to strategize, what can be affordable solution for you as the website grows and changes over time.
I go back and forth on this. Because there's a lot of turnover in architecture,
Yeah.
and that's problematic when it comes to this kind of stuff. Personally, if you are not savvy to this kind of stuff, you should determine a budget, and it should be healthy. This stuff is not cheap because it is complicated. And there are experts out there who will figure out who your audience is for you, and they're good at this stuff. I mean, they do their research. Whereas if you have an intern do it all, most likely you're going to get a portfolio website.
Yeah.
Which is probably not what you want. So I kind of recommend the other way. I recommend going with a tried and true firm that maybe you've been referred to by somebody you trust, because there's lots of good ones out there, and they're not cheap, but you get what you pay for. It's just like architecture. It's just like so many things, right? You get what you pay for. And I really do feel like, number one, as soon as you enter into a contract situation, you're on a timeline. You've got to get them information, and they've got to turn around and give you a website, and you have to like it, right? So
Right.
There's a lot of checks and balances when it comes to that thing. Whereas when you have, you're kind of at the mercy of somebody who's, working part-time, and those people are just as flaky, Neil.
Well, it's also what do we do best? We do architecture. We don't want anybody coming in, telling us how to do our job. Well, website design is not our job.
Well, I feel, again, I'm a
may-
total do-it-yourselfer, right?
Well,
when it comes to
we
this,
may-
I've
we
been
may
making
think-
websites since 1994,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't think it's for everybody. I don't think it's for everybody, but it is something that I want control of because of the thing Neil said. When I want to put something on my website, I want to put it on there. I don't want to be at the mercy of somebody else's schedule. But that's me. I don't.
Well,
don't
and
condone
I
that
guess
for everybody.
part of it wasn't really a recommendation, but part of why I kind of, not necessarily leaning that way, but just making it as a suggestion, I was thinking smaller. If you're a small sole proprietor or something, there are good tools out there. I mean, we use one, Squarespace, that you can, our site is on Squarespace. It's a platform. It took some work, a lot more work than I probably know, because you did it, Evan. But
your own site is in there too. So
yes, my own
it's
site is
always
on there
more
too.
work than you think it's going to be.
Absolutely. But you can create something that looks halfway decent, relatively
and it can evolve
easy,
over time.
And it can evolve over time, because you're on this platform. I mean, I know when we started Squarespace, as an example here, they didn't offer the merchantability, right? And since then they have. So now our donate links, are generated through Squarespace, and that's all taken care of internal, through Squarespace now. And, so as their platform evolves, you can make changes and evolve your website as, features are added. And so, I'm thinking maybe for this, a lot of, some of our listeners are probably sole proprietors or small firms. And I think in that case, trying to do it yourself is something you could do, at least to, maybe get you started to get a feel for what's working for you and maybe what's not working for you, so that at least when you do go, if you do decide at some point, okay, I need, somebody professional here to get this done, because as Cormac says, we're not web designers usually, we do architecture. And, then at least you have an idea of what questions to ask and what your needs are, and you can come to it with a little bit more educated ability or experience to say, this is what I need. Because if you have no idea, then, you might struggle a little bit more. But I think for firms like what you guys work for, much bigger firms, it makes sense, go hire out, go get some expertise, and, do something professional.
Yeah, and have a budget. And
Have a budget.
so that they know what they're working toward, because they could tell you, your appetite and your budget are at opposite ends of the spectrum, right?
Right.
It just depends on they're going to have a real good sense of the pulse of what it takes to accomplish what you want, a lot faster than you trying to figure it out on your own. So just know what you're getting into. It is a lot of work if you're going to attempt to do it yourself. It's a lot. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of research. It's a lot of deconstructing other people's websites, trying to reverse engineer stuff, figure out how they did it. It could be a real pain.
Right.
I've spent thousands and thousands of hours learning how to code websites, and I don't know if it's worth it, but
You're kind of crazy like that, so that's why we love you.
aw.
No, but it's a huge task. So go into it with some knowledge and some education, and I think that helps. So so I think knowing who you want your audience to be, knowing what you want to put on there to reach that audience. I think we've come up with a few good suggestions tonight. Do you guys have any other kind of suggestions? What do you want? Evan, Cormac, you said just a moment ago your office was doing a new site. So, what were kind of some of the things that you guys brought up as these are must-haves that we want to put on our site, or if you feel like disclosing, what are some of the things that they might have done that you might have disagreed with?
Well,
putting you on the spot there. Sorry.
Well, most of it was the trying to define who our audience should be. Should it be marketing to other architects by creating the portfolio page? Because sure, we're going to want we do want some eye candy in these websites, because we want them to know what our abilities are. We're being hired to create not just a space, but an aesthetic space of, we'll get into all of that later. But, so we do need the eye candy. But then there needs to be more. It's, what is the story? Evan was talking about we're not really being storytellers here, but we're sort of we're trying to be our storyteller.
Right.
Who are we? What do I want people who want to work with me? What do I want them to know? What will I be able to bring to the table? All of these other things, and then, I've got differing opinions than what we've done as our company. I think we're on the right track, to be quite honest with you, but I think there needs to be more of that storytelling of who we are and what we can bring and what we need, why it would be better to work with us over somebody else, or
what makes you different.
Yeah, what makes us different. In how working with us will be, this awesome experience versus, because you always hear everybody always talking about the horror stories of like, I worked with this architect, it was just horrible and blah blah blah, and you've got to just like what we're trying to accomplish with this podcast. We're trying to dispel the myths and the rumors and whatevers of architects are difficult, architects are hard to work with, architects are egomaniacs, and all this other stuff. We're trying to with this podcast, we're trying to dispel those rumors and say that we're just regular people who want to work together with you to give you this space.
Yeah, but I also think that what's funny about what you just said right there is that architects listen to our podcast.
That's true. That's true.
The audience.
Well,
it's
that's true.
Well,
I think
yeah.
I think that's more of like it's just a little camaraderie, commiserate, kind of thing. It's ooh, they have the same problems we do, kind of thing, more
right.
so than anything else.
Well, let me bring up one other thing about websites that just kind of came to mind. But what about photographs? We've talked about the portfolio and what have you, but I want to bring up the subject of photographs, because and first let me start with what how I address, or how maybe I deal with this is that, first off, I think that the photographs that you are going to have on your website, because you're going to have photographs, right? As your projects, you're going to show off your projects, and whether it's a portfolio website or informational or however you want to focus your website, there's going to be photographs. But I think that for your projects, or you're trying to show off your work, it needs to be professional photography. Don't just go out with your iPhone, take a few shots, and throw that up on your website. Yeah, sorry about that. So, but let me preface that. I'm gonna.
No, I was joking because I
well,
totally believe I'm right there with you. In
but
fact, actually, I was using that as an. I just want to say I wanted to use the photographs as an example of why we should not do our own websites for the very same reason you're about to make the argument about using professional photographs. So go ahead. Sorry.
Well, no, I think you should use professional photographs, but you're not always going to be shooting professional photographs of a project in process, or early on, or usually the professional photographs are done after the project's done. It's been furnished, and it's all done. It's real pretty, and it's all staged. And
it's actually at that perfect moment before they've actually moved in.
Yeah, or maybe people have moved in and it's all staged. But there's a process, and sometimes I like to show that process. So the way I've kind of handled this, and I'm not saying this is the only way, the best way, and I'd love to have people comment on our website and for this episode about what they think about this. But one of the things I've done is I do have a Facebook page for my company. And what I tend to do is when I'm on a job site and I'm taking in-process photos, the framing or, the demo or something, I'll put those up, just the snapshots, say maybe up onto Facebook. And I may link to them from my site or something, just kind of saying a project in process or something. But the idea is that they're not the portfolio shots. For those projects, I put those projects up on a different pedestal, if you will. And then those aren't necessarily like if you go to this project, so maybe there's, work in progress sort of thing you can put on your website. And then maybe it's okay to kind of have the non-professional photos, the snapshots that you might take with your phone, just kind of the quickie shots you share on Instagram, you share on Facebook or something like that, you can get up there and people can see, but then they're not the real pretty pictures that you're kind of focused on. Hey, here's my projects. Those are like the nice photos. So I'm curious what you guys think about what about how professional photography, and B, how do you deal with, the projects that are in process? Do because we all have posted, like Evan, you've posted some really cool stuff of just the renderings you've done. Those might not necessarily be featured on your company's website, but they're, progress stuff that you can try and show through maybe Facebook or Instagram or some other way.
Yeah. Okay. So this a couple things that I would say here is number one, put anything and everything on your website that shows a passion for what you do.
Okay.
It could be written word, it could be process photos, it could be scans of sketches, whatever it is that you can talk about how excited you are to work on these projects. That will come through that stuff. And that's, I think, very attractive because people want to be part of an exciting story or whatever it is, whatever this thing is that you want to call it, the process, right? Mm-hmm. And I feel, I think when I think back to school, some of the most successful projects during the final presentations showed the process. It wasn't just the magazine glossy images on the final boards. It was the entire process. So you could take the jury through it, and it works the same way with clients. You want to be able to show, we got to go through this amazing process to get to this final thing, and here they are living in it for real.
Right.
And they're loving it, right? So I feel like that, you're right. That is the kind of stuff I put on my blog, on my Instagram, because that stuff excites me. And if it excites me, I'm just showing you who I am. And that's really what people want to know is, will they fit with you to go through this crazy, huge, expensive process that they've probably never been through before, right? It's a scary thing for them. So the more comfortable they can feel with you as a person, like if they really feel like they're going to mesh with you, why not give that information out so that people can actually see it? I think it's a huge thing that the internet has allowed us to publish in so many different ways. And so all of these things are available to us. And one of the mistakes that I see a lot of architects do is publish something once in one place and then send it out to all these other avenues. So I publish a picture on my website, goes on to Instagram, goes on to Facebook, goes into Pinterest, goes on to Twitter, all at the same time. I am a big proponent of marketing in the year that we actually live in right now, 2014. Stop marketing the way marketing used to happen. I'm still amazed that there are billboards on the sides of freeways. But if you're going to use Instagram, use it for how it's meant to be used. And if you're going to use Facebook, use that for how it's meant to be used. Figure out how and where you should publish something. So when I go to a job site and I'm taking construction photos because I can't believe they're actually building this thing that I designed, it's amazing to walk through it, and here it is. I'm going to share that through Instagram because Instagram is images. It is all about sharing images, right? Mm-hmm. I feel like the more avenues we have to be kind of picky to which one we publish it to, and then you've got to be involved in each one of them to some extent. It's not just about your website. Nobody cares about press releases anymore. It's about blogs with real stories in it. On Instagram, it's about having a photo that might have a little story attached to it. On Facebook, it could be something completely different. But they all tell like this bigger, complete story about who you are, so people know if they want to work with you or not.
That's a good point.
I think the same thing goes for prospective employees too. I mean, you're telling a story, and it's not just going to get through to prospective clients. It could happen for, there's a very digitally savvy workforce out there looking for work, and they're looking in all these places as well. I mean, there are plenty of architects that I follow on Instagram because they take awesome photographs, with their iPhone. So I feel like,
thank you.
Anybody can do that. Right. You get to be part of their life for that one little moment a day, and it's kind of cool way to think about it.
Cormac, any thoughts on that?
Yeah.
Drop some wisdom.
No, I don't. I mean, he said it best. I mean, I totally agree with you. It's, you got to look for the right platform and use the platform the right way. I mean, I'm not going to try to rephrase anything that he just said because it was spot on. But, I will just reiterate that I think that with today's technology, sharing the story of the process and sharing the story of, the journey that the next prospective client will, partake is probably the most valuable thing, because rarely, if ever, even when I was, solo and doing residential work, did anybody really understand what they were about to get themselves into. And I always sat down and had the frank conversation that, understand, you're not just going to hire me to whip up a bunch of drawings and then send you on your merry way. This is a journey that I want to be involved with and help you navigate through, so that all of the little pitfalls that I've seen throughout my career, I can help you avoid. Or if we do run into them, we can help navigate them together.
We're in this together, yeah.
And make it easier, help us get out of those stormy waters a little bit quicker, kind of thing. And, so being able to tell that story on your website or through your blog or through Instagram will really kind of help them, your prospective client, know that they're hiring the right person, and those are the things that you need to put in the website.
And that is all additional work on top of your day job that is
Oh, yeah.
hard to do. I mean, we know how hard it is to want to sit on the couch after work and gel, right? Or hang out with some friends after work, or work late after work, whatever it is. There's always an excuse of something that you want to do. It is hard work to put this stuff together, but again, I think it does pay off in a very big way if you're willing to
Absolutely.
put in what it takes to do it. So yeah, like what does it take to be a blogger? It takes a lot of effort, is what it takes all the time. You have to put in the work.
Well,
Right.
there were some conversations that a couple of people were having on Google Plus about, hey, we're wanting to restart, a blog, and I'm one of them. I mean, I had a blog early on through Posterous, and it was bought out by Twitter, and then Twitter closed it down, so my blog went away. Not by
Bye-bye.
choice, but yeah,
Bye-bye.
it wasn't really by choice. It was by force.
Well, yeah,
But
pay for your service, and they're less likely to go away.
Well, true, but whatever. You always got to look.
Anyway.
for the free, you got to look for the free lunch.
You are an
No.
architect after all.
Don't you know how much we make? No, but but it's anyway, the conversation was going on, and about reblogging and stuff, and of course they were all very realistic about the fact that it is hard work to pull all this stuff together, because again, you're trying to frame the story, frame the journey, frame the adventure, whatever you want to call it. If you're using this blog as a tool, a marketing tool, and not the eye candy, here's the finished stage pictures and stuff, but, here's the reason why I'm the right choice to work with you, for you, and together to go through all of this. The storytelling, the photographs, all of that stuff, it's a lot of work, and that's kind of why I, with everything else going on, and work and everything else, I just kind of fell by the wayside. And,
Studying for your exams, right?
and
Those two.
and now that you guys have started to do like the ArchiTalk and stuff like that, I'm like, here's a good opportunity for me to kind of get back into
Yeah.
blogging. And I can't remember who posted it on Google Plus, but we'll find that link and get everybody
I
involved.
think it
with
was,
that.
wasn't it Matthew?
Yes,
Mr.
yes,
Mr. Field, Mr.
Yes.
Field 9 architecture. Yeah.
yeah.
I think
Matt
that was,
Stanfield.
but yeah, like every time I see somebody that I personally know who says, "Oh yeah, I'm going to start blogging again," and I just think, no, you're not,
Nope.
Yeah, it's
because it is a lot of work. I think set up a schedule is all I can recommend.
I did one a month.
Try to set up something regular. Figure out exactly how it fits into your schedule. That's the only way you're going to be consistent with it. But be consistent is the key.
Like Captain, Captain wants at least once a week, if not more, Life of an Architect, who is blogging all the time. I am starting to question how he's actually doing his day job. Because I mean, he's so good at it, and he's doing such a great job, and it's a well put together, well thought out, blog. It's just
the longer you do it, it gets easier. I think obviously, then you have to start dealing with other problems like correspondence. But I think the writing and the stories and the photography, like you get into a groove, and it does get easier. But you have to be consistent. If you're doing it once every 6 months, it's a chore.
then you shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah. Well, and you're probably not adding anything to the world, right? You should still ask yourself, does it deserve to exist? I mean, as designers, we should be asking ourselves that question before we put something out there.
So let me at least ask this real quick, and yes, Neil, it does actually have something to do with the website, because part of that Google Plus conversation was, talking about, checking the visits and the analytics and all this other stuff. And
ignore that crap.
I was going to say, is that really that important?
No, because you should be right. It's like going to see a really good unknown band play.
Yeah,
they're going to play their hearts out if there's 5 people in the crowd or 500 people in the crowd. It's the same thing. Like, you have to either be all in or don't do it at all.
I almost
like this podcast, right?
Exactly.
All in. We're here every 2 weeks.
That's right.
We don't really know.
Even
how
if
many
there are
people-
only 3 of you.
Yeah, there's only a few listeners out there. We appreciate every one of you, every 3 of you.
Well, somebody asked me, well, why do you really do that? I mean, do you really love architecture that much that you have something to say about it? Yes.
My wife's like, I can't believe you've done 40-something episodes. I'm like, well, there's always something to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
And
Good or bad.
sometimes we determine that right as we start.
Well, and sometimes it doesn't come out well, or you can't cover
Right.
all the points because it's general, and it's all, you can only hold people's attention for so long. There's all of these other kind of influences that you could think about, but my recommendation is don't pay attention to that stuff and just write
Just
for yourself in the beginning.
do it. I mean, just like me and my artwork, I don't really do it for anybody but myself. I do it for the enjoyment, the fun, and the passion of drawing it. The same thing is, with my architecture. I do it for the fun of it, the passion of it, the paycheck. I mean, sorry,
Not the paycheck.
no. It's a passion. I mean, that's why we do this. It's what we
Right.
love.
In closing, I first off want to just say thanks to everybody who does listen and does comment. We've gotten a number of comments. Usually at every episode now we're getting some comments, and I it's a lot of fun when I get those emails that come through saying, you've got comments, and to read them. We do read them, and it's a lot of fun. I know we got some comments on our last episode when we shared some tips about working with consultants and collaborating, and so I'm real curious.
There was a lot of commiserating.
Yeah, there was a little bit of commiserating,
But there
as
was
well.
also some, hey.
Well, but I think what's great, some of the comments we got back was, I'm trying some of your tips, and I'm, please give us some feedback on how some of that's working for you, because we're all trying to share ideas, and I think this whole episode was about talking about that. What about websites we talked about today, but we're just trying to share and help out the community at large here with this show.
Yeah, and speaking of sharing and helping out the community, thank you very much again to the donations that came in for ALS. Again, we're donating $700 to ALS because of our listeners, and so thanks everybody for that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So everyone, thanks for listening, and thanks for the feedback on iTunes. Please leave us reviews there. We definitely read those too. And
That's right. We have one more than the Entree Architect. We need to broaden the margin. We need more 5-star iTunes reviews, because so only leave a review if you're happy with the podcast.
Great. You just opened the door.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for listening, everyone, and stay subscribed, and we'll see you next time.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
I died in South Africa, only outlined my body in Tiffany blue. When I died, I drove right in and swam with the dolphins and Lisa Frank and you. My funeral was beautiful, oh, we got it for days on end. Thank God I cut, 'cause of my kind of luck, I'll be up on the block in front of all of my friends. This is what you get. This is what you get. This is a schedule. this is the set. It's unpredictable as you forget. If you blow, you can bet. I know. This is what you get. This is the schedule. This is the set. It's unpredictable as you forget. If you blow, you can bet. I know.